Hello and welcome to Adobe Live from the sofa. Today is Friday and it is the Tony Harmer Show. Hi Tony, how are you?
I'm good, Rufus. How about you?
Oh God, so long time no see.
I know.
This is crazy. Anyway, hello to everyone. Welcome in the chat. You remember that the chat is your gateway to Tony. And if you have questions and things like that, you can ask them in there. I will pass them on and we will answer your questions live. And also, I'm just going to say hello quickly. Oh, to Pia, to Kirsty, to Catherine, Sean. Oh, Tim is here. Okay, so that's weird. Julia is here. Axel. Jawed, Sandrine, Robert, Bob, Steve from New Zealand. Hey, Steve, you're always here.
So good.
It's great. Yeah. I one day we'll have to figure out what time it is in New Zealand at this time. But anyway, hello everyone. So welcome to Adobe Live from the sofa. Today we have a very, very special session with Tony because, as you are all aware, last week, we launched a whole bunch of new features in all of our apps throughout the Creative Cloud. And we're going to have a look at a whole bunch of those today. And I don't know, Tony, can you tell us a little bit how much you have planned?
Oh, well, we're going to
tick boxes and see how much you actually managed to show us in an hour, because that's going to be the big challenge for you today. Mm-hmm.
It is. Well, I'm kind of hoping that I can carry on into next week because there's so many things to do. But
no, one chance. 60
just
minutes.
one chance. Oh, man. Quick. You over there, conjure me up some XD assets right now. So we're going to spend a couple of short hits in a couple of places and a couple of longer hits in a few other places. We are going to be visiting Dimension. We're going to be visiting Bridge. In fact, I think we'll actually start in Bridge. We're going to go into After Effects. We're going to go into Lightroom, which I know is very, very popular in the community. We're going to maybe dip back into Premiere just to kind of do a little bit more on the thing that I showed on Wednesday with Charles. And also in Photoshop as well. So we're going to get through those. Got quite a list.
Yeah, because those of you who have been watching us all week, because we are here from the sofa every day from noon to 1 UK time. And the whole week, Tony has been showing us, some of the features that are new to Creative Cloud. And I'm really looking forward to this session, Tony.
Should be fun.
I'm going to be paying a lot of attention.
There we go. There we go.
Here, yeah.
Okay, well, actually, I'm going to start off nice and gently with one thing from Bridge, which actually, believe it or not, is having its birthday. Bridge is 15 years old this year. There we go. So happy birthday, Bridge. Now, of course, Bridge is... It's like the bastard child of the Creative Cloud, right? Nobody considers Bridge, it's like... Yeah. But I use it all the time as well. Yeah, super useful. Super useful. In fact, years ago, I used to do a talk on that where how Bridge is much more useful than your operating system, why you should use it so much more. And maybe we could revisit that at some point. But so here I am. I think it would be great if they would have called it the bastard child in the marketing. That would have been awesome. They would have gone, yeah, man, this is genuine. Get in. But no, it's the hub, of course, for all things. It's the way we can manage our files, do other things. And now we can actually export from it as well. So this is the new feature that I'm going to highlight in Bridge, is the new export feature. Now, I'm just here in the Essentials view, just viewing a bunch of different things from my Creative Cloud folder. And I'm going to use two things here. I'm going to use this map graphic and this van. Okay, so just a couple of things there. So I'm going to hold down the Command key just to select both of those. You can see them in the 2-up view over there. And I've got an export panel just here on the left-hand side. Now, if you don't see that in your version of Bridge, go to Window and just come down and find the export panel just there, and it will open up. And you'll see three things in here. So export to DNG, so digital neg, if you like, from that. So it's kind of a wrapper for raw files that lots and lots of manufacturers have helped to put together. It's meant to be sort of almost like a future proofing for your image file format. So something if you're adhering to the format, then it should be openable long into the future. Okay, so I've got those two, and you can also create your own new preset. And all I need to do here is drag these files over the target that I want, so you can see that it highlights like so. If I go to custom export, then the export window opens. Okay, now if you've got something that you export frequently, so maybe you just export a load of TIFF files, for example, then you could go ahead and just set this up, or JPEGs from your artwork. So one of these, both of these actually are Illustrator files. Then you could create that and then save your own preset, so it's available here.
Quick question.
Yeah.
The iPhone makes these HEIC formats.
Yeah. High efficiency image codec. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you do like, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, would it be possible, like, to just do like make a JPEG from that?
I would have thought so. I'll need to find an HEIC file on my
maybe just
on my system. But I would have thought so, yeah, because I mean, Photoshop can do that for us. So Photoshop can do it. It exists in the engine. I just don't know where I'd have one on here right now.
No worries.
Okay, but
just wasting your time. Yeah.
No, you're not wasting your time. That's a really good question. And do you know what? Next Friday, I'll open with that. We'll revisit that next Friday, and we'll do it. It's a note right now. Okay, I've put it on there. Good. Okay, yeah, so from here, you then choose the location where it's going to go to. So the original file location or one that you specify. Yeah, so typically when I do this, I call it whatever exports in there. You can create a subfolder with a name in there. How you resolve conflicts. So if you've got things with file names, how it resolves those things. Yeah, so whether it overwrites the existing file or creates a unique file name, which usually means appending a number to it. That's the way that normally happens. Or whether to skip it, don't process it at all. If there is, for example, something called van.png in there, it would move over that straight away. These are the formats it can work to automatically. So JPEG, PNG, TIFF, and DNG. From there, if you're using JPEG, then the slider you have here is really the image quality. So that between that and 12. Okay, from there. And of course, you've got other formats or other options for the other formats there as well. So you can really set it up to be exactly the way you want. Maybe you export to TIFF all the time and you use zip compression or not on there. So all things that you can add at the top. I'll just go back to JPEG just here. Then you can choose whether to scale the image as well if you need to, and also to constrain to fit. And what you do with the metadata, whether you include some or all of that. And then you simply hit start export, and away that runs and does it for you, which is really handy. You can just get a whole bunch or a folder and push those out straight away. There we are. So that's my quick tip for Bridge just there. So I'm going to quit these things as I move through them, because that way, in fact, if I just go for my heads up display, or actually it's on the other screen at the moment, you would see that I've got a lot of applications sitting on here running. Okay, so curiously enough, that's Dimension, but where I'm actually going to go just now is here to something that isn't even from the Adobe stable. So this is SketchUp, which is a piece of modeling software. Okay, and these are some shelves I needed to make for one of the storage rooms here. Okay, so I modeled them here and tested them out so that I could get everything cut nicely. Now, the format, the native file format for SketchUp models is .skp. Okay, and that's just been revised to the 2020 version. And so what I've done from here is I've actually downloaded a copy as an SKP file, and I've got that on my file system. I'm going to quit that now. Okay, I'm going to go to Dimension, go to the File menu, come down to Import, choose 3D Model.
Thank you for the quick Google advertisement here, but okay.
Well, you know, it's a really accessible modeler, I think. You know, it's a way that if you want to get... The only problem is it's a surface modeler, so it's not got the depth that these things have. But if you need it, it's there. So I'm just going to choose that file, okay, and open that. And then you can see here it is now inside of Dimension. So if I just want to orbit around that, there are the shelves. I could then add my textures and so on. So that's one of the great new things that Dimension does for us. I'll throw in one more. if you're working with type in here, you can now add type favorites. So if you've got a very, very font dense menu, okay, for your fonts, then maybe you want to add some favorites just there, and you can do that as well. So very handy.
Tony, maybe you haven't thought about that, but you could take, if you made it to scale, you could export that to Aero and place it into your office.
Do you know, I hadn't, and there you go. Maybe that's another one for next week. That would be a really, really good one to do, because I love Aero. I've been playing with Aero. It's really, really good. But that is actually a really, really neat idea. There we are.
And then maybe you'll notice that maybe the third plane from the ground is like blocking your light.
Possibly. Yeah, there you go. See? It's amazing, actually, that we could do that, thinking about it. Really, really good. There we are. So that's dimension out of the way. Tim, where's my tip?
Texturize it with some wood. Just put some wood on it.
Put some wood on there. Okay, let's go ahead. Sorry? Oh, is it? Oh, fantastic. There we go. Oh, it's because I can't see it. There we are. So let's go here for a wood texture. Now, I can't often read these things. And here's a nice thing to do, is to toggle the list view, because that way it makes it nice and easy for you to find a texture that you want. You can see here that this is cedar wood, and I'm just going to drag that on if I want it in a specific place, or if I want the whole model, what I can do is just select the model and then just click on the texture, and it will be added like so. So I do that, and then that, there you go, on the whole thing. And of course I can carry on editing that with all of the controls, because it's a substance material as well. I'll have a lot, so changing things like grain density and so on, which is incredible. Okay, right, dimension, we're clear. Ticked off the list. There we go. So a quick dimension. I don't need to save that one, so I'll just say new right for now. And next, we're going to pop into After Effects. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is create a new project, like so, and then into a new composition. Actually, I'll change this to HDTV, and I'm going to drop that up to 30 frames a second. And while I'm here, I'm actually going to save that as a preset, because the new one, I forgot to bring my presets in. So 30 FPS. Now, from this point on, all of the apps that I go into, I'm going to be revealing how to access all of the keyboard shortcuts in them. So I'm actually going to do that in just a second, actually, before we get on with the main tip, because questions in the chat and also in the Discord quite often revolve around shortcuts. How do you learn the shortcuts? Where do you find the shortcuts? Okay, because they're not always in the menu. The answer is almost always in the edit menu, and you can come down to keyboard shortcuts. Now, if you were watching Charles just the other day, Charles had created his own layout for how he works his keys and saved it here. They are a text file, so they're really, really easy to share amongst your work group as well. If you're on the same platform, you could create that text file and just move those things around. Okay, so After Effects has quite a lot going on, and there are different shortcuts available for the application and also for comps. And of course, if you hold down any of these modifier keys. So just for example, if I hold down the Shift key, you'll see it now shows me the character map for all of those, okay, and so on. And all I need to do, if I want to actually keep these as some sort of chart, is go copy to clipboard, and you can do this with all of the apps. They've got various different ways of naming it, but you'll find something like copy to clipboard, or the word summarize, or show text. And then you can get a new text document. In fact, if I just go ahead and get one for you now, bring that onto this screen and paste. There you go. All of the shortcuts are there. Now, if you're an InDesign whiz, you could go ahead and format all of this into a nice table really easily, using paragraph as the row separator and tabs as the column separator. And you could get yourself a nice little table.
Yeah, InDesign actually does that for you.
It does.
Yeah, if you look at the shortcuts, you can actually export it as a PDF or whatever. And you know what? one advice here is that you should all read through that text file at least once, because I'm sure there's features or things that you're not aware of, and you think, oh, what is that? And then suddenly you think, oh my God, this is so great. I need to know more about that. It's actually a good way to know a little bit about everything an application can actually do.
Yeah, it is. Because not everything's documented either ordinarily. You know, you might not find it on the web. You might not find it. So, for example, in Illustrator,
that keyboard shortcut option, that like seeing the keyboard like that, is that new, Tony, or?
I think this is only in digital video and audio products. It's a shame, because if this was in things like Illustrator and InDesign, it would be so much more accessible that way, because that way you can if you wanted to spend, you know, just a few minutes learning something each day and having a look at it and thinking, okay, these are the things I'm going to learn what they do today.
Yeah,
maybe you say,
especially also see the empty keys, because sometimes you want to make your own shortcuts and you can quickly see, okay, that's empty, so I can use that one.
Sure, absolutely. You can see here as well in After Effects, there's just so many different little things that you can get there for going through. But anyway, there you go. That's where you can find them. So if I remember, I'll show you when we go into the other things as well, but don't need to go into detail now. You know how to grab them. So what I'm going to do here is I am simply going to draw a stroke.
Claire is asking, how do you bring that shortcut image up? Simply
of the keyboard map, Shift Command K.
Shift Command K.
K, yeah. There we go. Oh no, sorry, here it's not. It's Option Command apostrophe.
Okay.
Just to be awkward. But in other applications, it's normally Shift Command K. So there we go. Easy enough to find.
Tim removed one feature.
Did he? Harsh.
Just kidding.
Harsh. So what I'm going to do now then is I am going to tap G here in After Effects. I'm in a comp. I'm going to tap G to get my pen tool. Now I'm going to go to the fill here because I don't actually want one. So I'll turn that off. I'm going to go to my stroke here. I'm going to make it a bit larger so you can see it. So there we go. And I'm going to change the color. Again, actually white will work really well against the black here. So I'm just going to draw something really straightforward like so. There we go. Let's do something like this. So can you see what it is yet? Have a wild stab in the dark. So here we are. I'm going to draw something like this. There we go. That will do for now. Okay, so there are two new things in After Effects that I think are really interesting. And the first is the ability to change how strokes can taper. In fact, I'll also draw another one just here as well. Okay, so I've got a second line feature just here. What I'm going to do is go into the shape layer just here and use the disclosure triangle just over on the left-hand side. I'm going to click that. I'm going to go into the contents. I'm also going to just change the relationship between that panel and the composition there. So I've got two shapes here. I'm going to go for shape 2. That's the most recent one that I drew. Okay, and I'm going to come down to stroke 1 just here. Okay, and I've got this new taper control. Okay, so what I'm going to do is wind that open like so. Now just watch the ends of the stroke here. In fact, if I just zoom in just a little bit here, just to the start and end. So if I go for the start length, you can now see that I'm changing the taper along that length as a percentage, which is really good because that means if
that can of course be animated.
Absolutely.
And no, Claire is saying, how come the different Adobe departments don't communicate with each other to agree on universal shortcuts? Well, Claire and everybody here in the chat, it's far more complicated than that. Because as you know, or may not know, is that most of the applications that are in the Creative Cloud are actually acquisitions. So for example, you know, Photoshop is from an acquisition, InDesign was actually made here, but yeah, what?
Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver, After Effects, all of these things. Yeah. And all of these applications actually have long-time users, and we can't just come in there and say, okay, now shortcuts are the same all over the place, because that would drive many long-time users completely crazy. So it's always a balance, okay, that we have to try to find and make sure not to upset too many people, because I can guarantee you that when we change one shortcut, some people will be happy, some people won't. So we always have to think about that.
Yeah, it is a big, complex problem. Very big. Yeah. So there's the tapering across the along the stroke like so. So the next thing I'm going to do, I could do the end length as well, but I'm just going to change the start width here. Okay, so you can see that 100% is exactly the same as the rest of the stroke width, but you can narrow that down however you want it to be. You might not want it to start exactly at 0, for example. Okay, and you can also ease this. So if you remember, if you don't know already, if you remember and you watch regularly, easing is a way of going between two things and changing the curve between them. Easiest way to explain it is when you get into your car, okay, and you drive to 30 miles an hour, for example, or 40 kilometers an hour, you don't go from 0 to 40 kilometers an hour. That would be really bad. You kind of ease into that motion. And when you brake, you ease out of that motion. And so that's what easing is. And here you can just change that easing like so. Can you see that? And now it's tapering, but it's very gradual. That's as gradual as it possibly can be. Or in fact, that's as bad as it possibly can be, or as strong as it possibly can be. But you can change the stroke tapering like so, which gives you a lot of creative possibilities, because you can go ahead with that. Okay, and you can, as Rufus has said, you can animate it. You could also do something called trimming, so the stroke would appear over time. So imagine you wanted to handwrite your name and have that appear gradually over the screen. This would make that a much more natural effect. Okay, so let me just go back to the whole window just here. Okay, like so. And I'm going to change a couple of other parameters. I'm just going to come away from taper just for a moment. And I'm going to go to this one, which is wave. Okay, so if I go to my wave, this allows me to create undulations along the stroke. Okay, so you can do things almost as like pulses throughout a line. So if I just show you here that what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in an amount to start off with. Now you'll see the line there is starting to change. Okay, like so. Okay, but I can also change the wavelength. Now, longer wavelengths give you a larger curve. Shorter wavelengths, then the interval is much closer. So if I take the wavelength here, for example, down and down and down and down like so, you can see how those intervals are becoming really steep. Okay, but if I just bring them out like that, and even those things just on their own give you tons of possibilities. If, for example, I went ahead and decided to keyframe the phase, which is how this is called in the wavelength. So I've added a keyframe here with the phase. Sorry, I'm going to do the wavelength. The wavelength of 106, just there. Phase is something slightly different. Okay, and I'll go here up to 10 frames and just change that wavelength just a lot, like so, and make it more frequent. And then I'll go back out a few more frames ahead. Okay, and then increase that wavelength again. You'll see that as I scrub along here, how that changes over time. And if I just play that for you.
It's alive.
It's crazy, right? It's just, there are so many things that you can add into it. And if you actually compound that by adding strokes and dashes and gaps, you can make some really crazy things. Just to show you here in the timeline, if I go to dashes, there's nothing in there by default, but if I tap add, the first thing it will add me is a dash like so, and then I can change the length of that dash, right? And that's working with that sort of variable effect on the stroke. Okay, and then if I tap the plus again, then I can work with the actual gap there. So there's just so many different things you could do with it.
Yep, and you only got 35 more minutes, Tony.
No, I'm going to get them all in. Don't worry, we're all good. So what I'm going to do is highlight shape 2 just here now, and I'm going to remove shape 2 and go to shape 1. What I'm going to do with this one, okay, is I am going to go to the shape layer, to the contents, and go across to this add icon here, and I'm going to add an offset path. Okay, now this is super, super fun. If I go to the controls for this, again, I can choose an amount there like so. Okay, so this is an amount of path offset that I want to use. But then I can start to introduce copies. And these things can be animated as well. Okay, so I could just go ahead here, for example, and go back to the beginning of the timeline here, hit copies, right, the stopwatch for copies. And I'm going to take that right the way down to just maybe 1.
Yes, Stuart says, oh.
Oh, yeah. It's super, super awesome. And now I can add up the amount of copies just there and bring that down. By the way, Rufus, I am available to do the titles for the next Max.
Okay.
So, if you just want to throw that out there, 20 quid. Here we go. So if I now animate this going backwards and forwards, yeah, and that's in just seconds, and if you think about the other effects that you could go ahead and add to that, yeah, it's really, really crazy. You could do it, just add some gradients on top, then add a bit of blur,
make it wiggle.
Make it wiggle. Absolutely. So all of that good stuff. Right. So that's the tips or the new things for After Effects. Quitting After Effects now. There we go. Don't need to save that one. My system resource is getting so much happier just now. There we are. I think it's time to do a bit of Lightroom. So we can do a bit of Lightroom with another kitty cat just here. This cat is Boots. Not actually my cat. It's a feral cat in Jamaica that I sort of adopted, and I really did want to bring it home. But my wife said no more cats. He was lovely and would come and sleep underneath my bed every day out there, mainly because he was getting fed, of course, but there you are. But so what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do some edits on Boots. So I've just tapped edit, and you might notice something different. So the first difference in Lightroom, because there are quite a few, is that the layout has been changed. Okay, so whereas before all of the additional tools were over on the top, taking up valuable real estate here in sort of the application bar region, now they're much more sensibly over on one of the sides. And this is also slightly more familiar to people who may be using the Lightroom mobile apps, for example. There's sort of a more consistent feel. It's not identical, but much more consistent between those. So there's a whole stack of different things. The new layout, of course, being the first one. Now, unfortunately, I've just updated this, so we're going to get a lot of little pictures telling me what things are as we go through, but not to worry about that. And actually, there's a good point here for people who might want to learn a bit more about Lightroom. In fact, in all of the apps, there's much more in terms of the learning space. But Lightroom has something really, really cool, because you can actually use the image you're working on to learn with it. Now, if I go here to this question mark icon, the help icon, okay, and click on that, okay,
yes,
you
Tony,
can see.
I'm here. Yeah. What can I help you with?
That would have been more fun if Emma would have done that as her disjointed voice and just gone, "Hello, Tony, how can I help?" I'm like, whoa. How long is it though before we get voice as an actual input on these things? That would be really, really useful. If rather than just relying on digits, once you can start talking to things and saying increase the brightness by such and such a value, that will also open up the application to people who can't work with their hands as well, which would be incredible to see what people could do. But anyway, we will just wait and see. And so here I could go ahead and go edit my photo, and then it would take me through different steps, right? So here you go. You can pick a style from these, okay? And then it will walk you through the different steps to do that. So I'm not going to do that right now, but if you are Lightroom curious, as we say, right, then this is perhaps a good time for you to jump in get one of your own files, okay, and then play around with it in here and be guided through by these handy tutorials. Super awesome. There's also a lot more involved in community in this version of Lightroom as well. Lots and lots more. There are great things you can do. So as soon as you've made more, yeah, as soon as you've made more than 3 edits on a file, you can submit it, okay, and if it's approved, it can go out there so people can use your photo, and they can use all of the edits you've done and save those as presets, okay, from here. So you just use share edit, okay, and you submit that from there, and then it comes along with all of the things that you've done to it. So if you've taken something from 0 to hero, for example, and you think, I wish other people could use these, or they're saying, how do you do that with your landscape photography or whatever? This is how you can actually do it. And if you're trying to kind of get out there and share your knowledge, great way to go ahead and do that. And I know we have a few people in the community that do exactly that thing. You can also connect with others here as well. So you've got whole things for different people. So you can go ahead, connections, right, and connect to your different apps. So Adobe Portfolio, Blurb, the book manufacturer, like so, and WHCC as well, which I have no idea what that is.
I was going to ask you, what is
Yeah, I knew you were. I do not know. I genuinely don't know. I know a lot of things, but I don't know what WHCC is. Okay. But I will by this afternoon.
Put it on your...
There you go.
We'll talk about it next Friday.
Absolutely. We could actually. Those things are great, by the way. Services like Blurb are awesome because they also integrate with things like InDesign. So if you're doing something like Eric was doing yesterday when he was creating his souvenirs zine, yeah, it's a great way to do things like that. You know, it's low impact. You pay a little bit more for the actual end product because it's POD, it's printed on demand. So it's awesome. Anyway, right, I'm going to make a couple of edits just here. So I'm going to go for a couple of just simple global edits just for the moment. So I'm going to increase the contrast. No stapler accident finger just yet here in Lightroom, but I'm kind of hoping that it will come along sometime soon.
Actually, WHCC is wait, I just had it. It is the White House custom color, and basically it's not the Washington White House, but it's called White House custom color, and they do prints on metal, on paper, all sorts of cool things. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I love prints on metal. Awesome, especially if you've got gritty, grainy landscapes. Really, really, you know, well, not grainy, but you know what I mean, with lots of crunching.
I know what you mean.
I know. Now, here's the thing: when you've got all of these panels working down here, later on when we go into Adobe Camera Raw, you'll notice something different about having all of these panels open and having to scroll through them. So hold on for that one. But what I want to focus on just now are a couple of local edits, right? So I've got my tools down the side here. I'm going to go for this radial gradient. Okay, and I don't need to do that one just for the minute. And I'm going to go ahead now and I am going to draw an ellipse like so. And I'm going to rotate that around, bring it into position here. Okay, and then just get that like so. And I'm just going to improve the brightness here. And I can change the feathering, but I think that's just fine. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to the controls. Okay. And just lift that just a little bit. I'm also going to drop the contrast down there so it doesn't become too edgy. That's pretty good the way it is, and I think I'll just do one along the top here as well, just to change those. Okay, so I don't want to brighten that quite as much, but just a little bit more, just to kind of line the two things up. There we are, nicely like that. And I'll bring this one down like so. Okay, now you might have noticed that when I added this second one, that it actually already had the properties of the first one. Now, sometimes that's helpful. For me, just then, that was very helpful because I knew how far I'd gone with the other one, so I could back it off a little bit. But that isn't always the case. And if you want it so that it's automatically reset, because before you'd have to go to the panel flyout and choose reset local correction settings, you can now come down to the bottom here, okay, and deselect reset sliders or select reset sliders automatically, like so. So it will just change those things for you. So have it enabled whichever way you want to do it. So there with my edits, of course, I could go ahead and then send that out.
And Bob is all scared because he thought you were going to add laser eyes, but not today.
Yeah, no laser eyes today. So sorry. But there we are. Now you're going to see some more of this kind of stuff here when we do Adobe Camera Raw, because they use basically the same engine under the hood pretty much. So you're going to see some replication. So I'm going to save something up for those. Just checking on my little list here. We are good. Oh, no, something else. There is something. Nearly missed it. Glad I looked at that list. Down at the bottom here, right, you've got a new way to access presets from just down at the bottom, which is really, really nice. And also this, which I find super, versions. You can now go ahead and save different versions of your edit. So from the edits I've made here, I could go along and create a version, and I'll just call this lighter, brighter eyes there, like so.
Bigger. Okay.
There we are. Oh, did I? Britte. Yeah, well, that's the traditional Cambridgeshire spelling. There we go. So now I can click between these, and I can either keep them, right, or make more and just go between them, so I can show things as they progress over time. Yeah, it's just a click away to do that. And as all of the edits I'm making here are essentially text-based, it's not adding anything to the file, because Lightroom files under the hood in the main, apart from things that use coordinates such as these, are text edits. They will say, for example, exposure equals plus 0.72, when in fact it's
so
just...
There's two things here. Gareth first thought it was Cornish spelling when you said brighter. And Gareth is, what was it? Sondri, what's the difference with snapshots?
Snapshots is a Lightroom Classic thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Snapshots.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know, because I don't really do Lightroom Classic. I can't answer that one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I don't see. Well, for me, because I'm not a photographer. That's not my main job. So I kind of moved into this from Camera Raw in Photoshop.
So Catherine is asking, does the create version stay with the file when you close the file and reopen?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Everything. It just gets written to the file. Here's a version. Here's what all of those numbers equal. And that's it. They're just there. So they hang around with it. So if I went to another image here, for example, of Tilly, and then went back to Boots and went back to my versions, you can see them just there. Yeah. So they're all there. All super, super good. Right. That's Lightroom bye-byes for now. How am I doing on time? Oh, that's all right. I've got a good 20 minutes yet. Not going to panic now. In fact, I'm going to have a cup of tea.
And we're at feature number 18.
Are we? That's very good. Now, where do I want to go next? Actually, I am just going to pop into Illustrator just for a minute. Just a couple of little things that I want to do in Illustrator.
So just to get the confusion away here, Gareth, you're right. So the versions doesn't save a physical file. No, because everything, all the edits and choices you make in Lightroom are actually saved as XML. And basically what happens is that it's a text file that travels with your original file. Typically, the original file is a raw file, or any original image that you put in there. And the one cool benefit about Lightroom is that it is completely non-destructive. So basically, you can always go back to the original. All right. So and the way you build on top of the original is by adding to that text file with all the commands and shifts and things that the edits you've done. And this is why you can also revert back, go back to the edits, etc. So it's pretty cool.
It's really non-destructive. Good. Absolutely. Low overhead, non-destructive.
Today I will be non-destructive.
There you go. That's it. Yep. So, a couple of things here in Illustrator. Something that I think it's worth you seeing is that there's a couple of things actually that I think are super useful. The first is when you're transforming. So if you are a regular Illustrator user, and in previous versions, if you've had something like this graphic here from Adobe Stock, right, and you've needed to transform it, when you go ahead and transform, you get outlines or nothing at all. You just get the bounding box. But now you can see that you get a dynamic preview as you go. It's a small thing, but it's a really, really big deal if you need to know where something actually sits in terms of its space in relation to other objects. And in fact, that drawing experience just a short while back, but included in this release, okay, is the ability to get a better preview when you're distorting and transforming. So if you're going to use that, right, whereas before you had sort of a vague idea based on the bounding box, now you can see exactly, okay, the effect that is having. I made another new word. But it's just awesome. It's a small thing, but it's really, really awesome. You'll notice, curiously, if I undo it, registers each one of those transformation steps, okay, as a thing. So you can go back winding through those things.
And can you hide the outlines while you resize?
The bounding box.
Yeah, all these, all these lines and points, like the central points and stuff like that. I guess you could turn them off in the preferences.
Yeah, you could do that. I don't know what the benefit would be for doing that, but I guess you could do.
Well, so that they don't get in the way when you resize your graphic.
I suppose. I mean, if I turned off the bounding box, let's go and just change that. The only thing is, if I turn off the bounding box.
Try that for you, Julian.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of a way to do that otherwise, to hide. Normally these things are in the view menu, and can't think off the top of my head. So if that's one I need to come back to next week, then I'll come back to it.
Well, okay, we can get back to it.
No, if you've got one you want to chip in.
No, like it's in view. It's somewhere there, or maybe
yeah.
Edges. Oh, Tim.
There you go. Thanks, Tim.
Why don't we do the Tim show?
We should do the Tim, Tony, and Rufus show. That'd be awesome.
Now do the resizing.
Yep. Okay. Here we go. Doo-doo.
That's just for you, Julian.
There you go.
Everybody else.
Fantastic. Just get my show edges back. Oh, I don't know why I didn't think of that. There you go. It's because I'm thinking of 101 other different things right now. There we are. Something else that's worth you looking at. If I just go ahead and save this file, you will get this message at the moment. Now, you can turn this off to don't show again. That doesn't mean you don't get access to this particular feature, right? But it just means it's somewhere else in the save dialog, okay? And it's the option to save things as a cloud document, which has several advantages in that wherever you want to access that file, you can access it. If you want to access it in Fresco, if you want to bring it into Photoshop on the iPad, if you want to do all of these different things, then you can bring it in there. If you work across different machines, yeah, that's really handy as well because you can access it from there. Some of the other benefits, the smaller benefits that are really, really important. So if I just save this as a cloud document here and call this Van Demo, like so, which is what my name will be next week on my other account. Okay, so I'm going to save this here to my cloud documents, like so. One of the other advantages you can see here, by the way, an icon tells me it's a cloud document in the tab bar, is that you don't have to worry about saving, because Illustrator is going ahead and saving this for you as you go along, which is super, super useful that it does that. And it does it because it can kind of write the file in a slightly different way, okay, than when it has to write it to your file system. So your file system expects things to be written in different blocks. This file is A and then data and la la la, whereas this can just move the data backwards and forwards. So it's much, much more efficient. There is actually a number on that somewhere, and I thought I had it on my other screen, but I don't. But it's a significant increase in actual save time, even on bigger files there as well. Okay, good. That's that in Illustrator. Again, if you wanted the shortcuts from that, there you go. It's got Alt-Shift-Command-K. There you are.
And then there's export text. Yeah. Press that. There. It'll open an HTML page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I think this one's a text file now.
Okay.
This one's a text. It did used to be an HTML page, but I think they changed it.
Okay. Can you see if the HTML is still there?
No, it's not in the list.
Export text in that.
Oh, right. Okay. Hold on one sec. Let me just go ahead and open that file. 2 seconds. I just need to bring that across from here. Got it. No, it's just the raw text from the file there, like so.
Yeah, but there was like there were choices.
Oh, were there?
Yeah.
What, in the export text?
Yeah. You can say file format. Oh, there's only one.
No, it's just text now.
Okay.
Yeah, just text. They did, and InDesign used to do a beautifully formatted HTML1, but theirs is text as well now.
Fair enough.
But they're all in slightly different places, but just look around for them and think, what does that actually do? If it says export, it's not going to hurt anything. So, you're all good there. But no, it's weird. I think it's just because, well, I don't know. But anyway, it's easy enough to format. If you're an InDesign whiz, boom, and there you go, done. Good. Right. So next one up is Photoshop. Right, so let me just pop into InDesign.
Yesterday, I left my work computer at a friend's house 100 miles away. Sure do wish I was saving my After Effects projects to the Adobe Cloud last time. Yeah, and this is one of those tricky things that it takes getting used to. But once you get into the flow of having everything in the cloud, which sounds ominous, no? But it's actually... like when I used to travel a lot, like 15 years ago for Adobe, I always had to have at least one, like 2 or 3 backup disks with me in case my computer would break. Or now if I'm, let's say I'm in Singapore and my computer breaks and I need to make a very important demo, I can just jump on, put in my Adobe ID, and I have all my files and everything. So it's just I just feel safer knowing that, my stuff is out there and I can always get access to it.
And one of the things from when I was at Adobe and go out to customers and talk about things like that, they go, "Oh no, I'm not sure that's secure." If the level of encryption around these things is huge, way more than your bank uses, right? Way more than most defense organizations use for their stuff. Huge. That's what all of those characters are in that long encrypted URL that you sometimes see. Yeah, that's the encryption. It's super tight. And to be honest, if somebody wanted to go ahead and steal my van here, they're going to have to work really hard to do it. And the reward isn't going to meet with the effort. But there you are. By the way, if you're watching just in the background there, I just went to InDesign, went to edit keyboard shortcuts, and there's show set. And again, that came out as a text file just here. And the reason it's called default.txt is because that's the default keyboard shortcut set. So if you've got multiples, then you can go ahead and use those.
So anyway, Axel and Sandrine are having a conversation about the Creative Residency Community Fund. And Sandrine was kind enough to put the link in there. I'm going to just copy that and make that an active link, because this is a project that we've launched a few months ago, where we are actually giving $1 million to the creative community. Okay, we give between $500 and $5,000 for creative projects, or if you want, if you need for us to give you something to do, we also have these type of programs. Go check it out, because it's we understand that it's not very easy right now, so we have created that program to help the creative community out globally. Okay, this is not just for the US or UK or this that. Almost everybody on the planet can actually access that,
It's amazing. It's amazing. Do you know, I think it says a lot about our societies when they put the arts right at the back of the queue. I know that some things like Germany, they've got really good programs for artists, but I think that like here in the UK, they're just going like, yeah, you lot can just wait till whatever's really bad. Anyway, right, here I am in Photoshop. So there's a bunch of different things in Photoshop. If you were with me the other day, you will remember that I did the improved select subject. But just in case you weren't around on that particular day, what I'm going to do is just create a new document here just now. I'm going to bring a couple of things in from Adobe stock. So I'm just going to bring in a background here like so. I'm going to use my favorite stapler accident finger here just to quickly resize that. And also I'm just going to bring that down just a little bit there. Perfect. That's all good. Then I'm going to add another layer just here like so. So let's bring that over onto the side and go ahead and apply that one. Close the libraries window. So what I'm going to do now is use the select subject command just inside of the select menu just here. And in this release, it's been optimized for portraits. Now, if you've got an earlier version around, try this out and have a look at the results, and then have a look at the new version, because it is becoming super, super sensitive, okay, around things like hair. So if I choose that, the algorithm starts running and analyzing this, and look at the result I've got just there. If I just go ahead and add a layer mask here, you'll see that is pretty good. Now I could go ahead, refine that still further. So if I wanted to, I could go into the mask and go into the select and mask workspace and use some things here to just improve that. But I think that is really amazing that it's getting that far already. And I think also you can actually join the Adobe Product Improvement Program if you want to help inform the AI with these things. I think that's something you can actually get involved in as well. So check that out on the Adobe website. Okay, so I'm just going to close out of that image there. I don't need to save that. Let's go with this one just here, and let's go into Camera Raw. So I'm going to use the shortcut here on this Smart Object, Shift Command A, Shift Control A to get to it. Otherwise, filter menu, Camera Raw filter. And what I'm going to do is a local adjustment just here. So I'm going to use again the radial adjustment, and once more have a look in that sort of single experience, all of those tools now on the side. So much more room for the actual important bit, the image. And if you're opening raw files, there's a couple of other extra things as well. So if you have multiple open at the same time, there's a thing for the film strip where you've got options there for how they're displayed or what information they display too. Anyway, I've got the radial filter here, and I am just going to go ahead and draw a radius like so, clearly around the umbrella just there. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the hue slider. Now, first of all, I'm going to right click on this. Actually, no, it's on the main thing, but I'll right click on it later and just hide the other bits I don't want. But I want to change the hue, right? So if I just go ahead and dial this around like so, okay, that's pretty easy. Now, it will be to some extent affecting the outsides, but we'll deal with that in just a second. Now, you will find this checkbox here for use fine adjustment just underneath, which makes this thing go much, much slower at the top. So you might get sort of in the region that you'd like to be, but then you're trying to tune it. And while it's going fast, that's difficult. And rather than clicking that, if you hold down the Alt or Option key, it puts it into slow mode. And if you look at the numbers, if you're able to see them, okay, that are changing, they're changing as decimals now, really, really subtly. So that's a super thing to have. The last thing I'd do here, if the surrounding area was not black and white, would be to go ahead and add a range mask and choose color. I've now got an eyedropper here that I could go ahead and sample those colors like so, okay, and then choose the range over that. But as it was, that's a pretty good adjustment there. And as with any of these adjustments, okay, I could go ahead and just brush out the adjustment. So if I just go ahead here and add a mask over the top, I just use my bracket keys to change the size of the brush there. You can see how I can change that as well. So
yeah, and that's answers also Axel's question. Does the software detection detect specific shape or change the hue of that, or does it know the boundaries of the umbrella? No, but you can say like you just did, you know, like a specific area.
Yeah. Yeah, so these range mask things are awesome, and you can choose between color and luminance. So if luminance makes more sense, which it might do in some situations when you've got things that pop into a sky, because they're likely to be darker, then luminance makes a good thing there. But just, it's not going to hurt for you to play. You'll learn then where it works best for the work that you do. But there you are. You've got this new way of changing hues, and rather than clicking the checkbox, just remember, hold down the Option key, okay, and then you can move that around. If I now go back to the main set of edits, you'll see that all of these things here expand and collapse. Now you've got options for the way that works. If I right click here, you can see that at the moment I'm in single panel mode. So if I'm working in one panel and I click on the next panel, the first one will collapse. Okay, now that makes sense for me just on here at the moment. But there are times when I do, for example, want to see my basic edits and I want to see the curves. just here at the same time. If I don't have enough screen real estate for that, something else I could do would be to change into responsive panel mode, okay, where it will use a bit of intelligence to actually determine what you see from in there. So there you go, things with the panels. Additionally, if you've got edits on a particular layer, you can see my mask overlay just there. But if I just go back, you'll see you then get an eye icon there, like so, that tells you which of these properties have edits applied to them. Okay, and I'll just go and double click this to set that back to natural. I think you can also actually remove that with, I think it's an option click to remove the eye. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but there you go. So that's super useful in Camera Raw. Something else that we have is, if I just show you my type menu here, okay, in fact, if I go over to add a type layer, just to show you something a second, I'm going to click here. Whoa, way big. Stapler accident finger, rescue me quick. There we go, that's much better. I'm going to hold down my command key and just move that here like so. What I want to show you is, I do not have a font activated here, okay, called Cree or Chi. I have neither of those things just here. And now I'm going to open a file that does have those things. So I'm going to go File, Open. Okay, I'm just going to come out to my iCloud drive here, where I've got some of these things, because it helps me to move between accounts. I'm just going to open this file at Homebury, which is a thing I've got in progress for people who are watching Glastonbury from their home this week and being encouraged to take a tent into the garden. So I'm going to do at Homebury, and you can see I've got a couple of assets here, okay, from the images. I don't need to change those just at the moment, but the important thing is, okay, that it recognizes this font, okay, and it can just go ahead, okay, and replace it. I can manage that as well. I think also it should auto activate that after a moment or two. It might just be just a tiny bit of lag here, but you might actually see that come along and just say it activates that as well, because one of the things it does do is do it, because it never does it when a load of people are watching you.
Of course not. But that's
trying to show that.
Don't worry.
Yeah, never work with children, animals, software, those things. But anyway, it will activate it. I think it's probably just a million and one things just stopping it just at the moment. Right, I'll close that one out, okay, and this one. I'm going to create another new file just here. Okay, in fact, I'll go with 1080A again, like so. So maybe I want a particular fill in the background, okay, of this image, and the patterns in Illustrator these days, in Illustrator and Photoshop, are absolutely awesome. I'm going to go ahead and go up here as a new pattern fill layer, like so. You'll now see, in addition to the pattern, you've now got this rotate option. So you can go ahead and rotate your pattern fill as well. Okay, from there, you can see that my machine's just lagging just a little bit just at the moment. I think that's because of the other stuff.
That's fine. You just have 1 minute to go. 1 minute.
Like, 1 minute. 1 minute. What have I got to get in now? Where is it? Ooh. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Right. Well, the last thing that I've got is improved match font, but now I can't get to the actual image I need. That's something I'll just have to point out. So if you've got an image which has type or maybe signage in it, or an old document, and you want to find out if there's an Adobe font that matches that, you know, exactly or closely, what you can do is go ahead and use the match font option from here, which has been greatly improved. Whereas before it just needed a line, it can now work with multi-line stuff and a lot more things besides. So you can just go ahead and filter.
There is one last message from Steve Festus Casaboom. Tony Harmer, if you're in touch with Charles Carter, tell him I have talked to the New Zealand Owls and they have found and adopted his lost drone. All is well.
Amazing.
I don't know what that was about, but...
No, that's amazing. Charles Carter had a drone that ended up in a tree and he had to leave it behind.
There you go.
Oh, is he? Oh, right. Okay, fab. Okay. It's all right. The tip fairy was in my ear just there going, I'm really worn out. How many did I do in the tip counter?
27.
27. 28 with text. Oh, there we go. And I haven't even touched XD yet. I think XD is going to get its whole own thing, or the majority of next week, because there's always new stuff going on in XD. But some of the things that happened recently are absolutely stellar and worth looking at. But there you go. So that's a bunch of the what's new in the current drop from Creative Cloud, as well as all the nice new icons and all of that stuff.
So one question that comes up frequently in the chat is, "Hi Tony, how do you keep up with all that stuff? Like how do you?" Well, it's very easy. Like whenever there's an update, just take the 3 minutes it takes to actually see what's new in that specific build of the application or version, like many times there's many features that I would personally never use. But, at least I know, okay, this came in. And then maybe there's a feature in InDesign, for example, that you think, oh, wow, this is something maybe that I should check out right now because it'll save me a lot of time. So just take these few minutes it takes just to read, what are the top new features in any given new version.
Yes. Yeah.
It's Friday. This is my last stream of the week. So forgive me.
It's all good.
And that's how Tony and I and all of us who actually are working on these Adobe apps day in, day out, actually keep up with what's new. And when I don't read the what's new files, I always get lost. Then I have to read it's like now I have to watch season 2 and 3 before I understand season 4.
That's the thing. And you meet people all the time that say, how did I not know that?
Yeah, right.
How did I, and for like you say, for the investment, when you launch the app after an update, it shows you there are new things.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the 2 or 3 minutes it takes to go through those things and note down the things that you want to investigate later is an investment that really you should take.
Tony, what can I say? Thank you so much for this very special Tony Harmer show on our Friday Adobe Live from the sofa. I wish you a great weekend, Tony, and also you in the chat. Thank you for joining us throughout this week. We will, of course, be back on Monday with our Adobe Live from the sofa from noon to 1. And remember that the conversation continues 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year over on our Discord. And I think Tim will, I just posted the link. Very good. Tim is in my head. And Discord is, our chat platform that we're using for these Adobe Live sessions. So come join us over there if you want to continue chatting with me, with Tony, with Tim, among each other. It's a great place to be. So have a great weekend. Yes, what, Tim? Did you say something?
No, I say cool. I say cool. Because I've got the day off on Monday.
Great. So have a great weekend, everybody. Be safe, healthy, and creative. Bye.